Hey everyone, welcome back to Topher Drives, where this week I have been driving the brand new, newly revised, and in my opinion, almost perfect 2024 Mazda Miata Club. This is now the ND3 generation of the Miata. Its 9th model year as the ND, but I think now that we've gotten to the second facelift of this car, they've just about perfected this formula. And I have just been beside myself driving this thing this week, and I'm excited to take you guys along on a little daily drive slash commute in this new ND3. I've got to go give this to the Topher because it is his turn to enjoy Miata weather and the Miata itself. But I figured I would take you guys all along with me. We'll talk about what this thing has been like to live with this week, and we'll also talk about how it is as a commuter, because there hasn't only been visual and mechanical changes to this. They've also done a couple tweaks on the interior to make it a bit more comfortable. But before we get in there, let's talk about what all is new on this ND3. Well, the most notable thing, and the thing that you'll notice first, is we now have LED headlights, and the headlights themselves are brand new as well. Matching around back, we have some new taillights, and while the shapes aren't new, the actual design of the lights inside are a little bit more freshened up and more appropriate for the 2024 model year, if you will. These taillights are still a little bit phallic, but now they are sort of outlined and LED, so that's nice. Mechanically, which in my opinion is the most important, we have a brand new steering rack in this car, which gives, in my opinion, a much better feel. It's kind of the thing that this car needed the most, and man, have they sharpened this thing up and made it feel proper for the ND3 generation. Additionally, we have a new limited slip differential around back. This new diff is meant to reduce oversteer and understeer, so the Miata is not as much of a tail happy thing as it used to be, but that's a good thing for most people, because your average dentist or doctor or dad or grandpa or mother or grandmother, whoever's driving their Miata most of the time, does not really want to be drifting every corner like you and I may want to. So this new differential does sort things out quite a bit. Those are most of the changes, and we'll get to the ones inside once we're inside the car, but I want to talk about what I actually have here in front of me. So this is a Club. It's obviously finished in Soul Red, which is the best color for a Miata. I know we all agree on that. And this one has the BBS Brembo Recaro pack, which sort of self-explanatory. We have BBS wheels, we have Brembo brakes, and we have Recaro seats. The Club itself, which is kind of a mid-grade enthusiast trim of the Miata, starts at 32 grand. This one, as spec'd with the Soul Red and the BBS Recaro Brembo pack, is just under $40,000. It comes in around 39 grand. So it ain't cheap, but in my opinion, this is just about as perfect as you can get for an enthusiast package in 2024. I don't really know if you could do much better if you're shopping around new car lots only. So what's this thing like to commute with? Well, if you're commuting by yourself, it's going to be fantastic because it has a driver's seat, it has a steering wheel, and everything you need to go on your own. But what if you're taking someone with you, or if you're taking stuff? How much room do you have? Well, let's take a look in the trunk here. We've got a little button below the Skyactiv G badge back here, and that pops our little boot lid and reveals what is actually a pretty deep trunk. You're not fitting golf clubs back here, so bad news for some of the market in this car, but if you're traveling alone, they will fit nicely on your passenger seat, so no worries there. But if you're going to the grocery store, you're going to work, you're going on a little vacation, you're able to fit 1 or 2 day bags in here, or your groceries, or whatever. So don't think that this is totally unusable. We do have some space. Unchanged for the ND3 facelift is what's under the hood, and that's okay, because with the ND2 we got a little bit of a power bump. So under the hood we have the same 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. It still makes 181 horsepower and 151 pound-feet of torque. Of course, this thing is rear-wheel drive, and power is sent to the rear wheels via a 6-speed manual transmission. You are still able to opt for a 6-speed automatic in the Grand Touring top trim Miata as well. If you want to make things even more expensive, you are able to do that. But I think that this formula here, Club, 6-speed manual, BBSs, Recaros, this is it. In Soul Red, this is exactly how I would have my Miata. So when this thing showed up the other day, boy was I excited. We've got this little lip kit as well that's part of the pack. We get a little front diffuser. We get these side skirts as well as a rear lip here and a lip spoiler on the trunk. This little antenna here as well. So it's a proper thing, and boy is it pretty. I've gotten a lot of looks in this car this week, which is kind of surprising because it is just a Miata, but people really enjoy this car, including me. So let's get in it and let's go for a drive. Stepping in, these Recaros are the same as what you would have gotten on a 23 with this package, but if you opt for a Club without the Recaros, you now get the same Alcantara inserts on the base seats, which wasn't an option before, so that's kind of nice. Additionally, in here we have a new 8.8-inch infotainment screen with wireless Apple CarPlay. We still have the Bose sound system in the Club, and we have these headrest mounted speakers, which I love that they still do these. Those have been around since the NA generation of the Miata. And well, I had an NA Miata, I had a 96, and it had these little headrest speakers in it, and those were always fun. These Recaros are heated, and you guys are gonna laugh, but one of my favorite changes for 24 is the fact that they've added more padding into the interior for your elbows. So the center console, this little piece right here, is completely new. It's got more padding in it to match our already existing nice padding here on the driver's door panel to give you some comfy elbows. So now you can kind of do some grand touring and do some commuting without your elbows getting all red and scabbed. So that is very good. Let's fire this thing up and we'll go for a drive. There's not really too much else to show you in here. Plucky little noise from that 2-liter, and Miatas do sound pretty dang good with an exhaust, so that's probably the first thing that I would do if this were my car. You can see wireless CarPlay connecting straight away, and while this is in CarPlay, it is an touchscreen, but once you get back to Mazda's screen, you have to use your little command control knob, I think they call it, and below that we have a volume knob as well. No auto climate control and no auto headlights in the Club trim of the Miata. You've got to step up to the Grand Touring if you want to have those luxuries, but this is still a pretty nicely appointed interior. Body color trim here on the door panels. We have some leather on the middle of the dashboard. We've got these removable cup holders that you can take out of the middle, and if you have a passenger, you can stick this down here for them and they can enjoy a beverage as well. I like to have them back here because I found that when you're in the passenger compartment, it kind of intrudes on your legroom a bit. We have this really easy to use manual top that can go up and down in about 3 seconds, which I love, which means if you're at a set of lights, you can kind of just pop that thing down and it's out of the way. Cool. All right, well, we'll sit on our little nav screen here. I'm trying out a new filming location today, which seems to be pretty decent. Got a bit of highway noise, but otherwise it's good. Cool, so we're gonna jump onto the highway first and do a little bit of a spirited section, and then we're gonna go meet the TOPher about 25 minutes away from here. So let's go ahead and get started on our little commute here in the ND3. Clutch, accelerator, brake, shifter action is all fantastic. It's very light input, so you're kind of able to snap things off quite quickly. You can really bang gears in this 6-speed and you don't feel like you're hurting the car. And one thing Mazda's always had bang on since the NA generation of this car, in my opinion, is their shifter. And I think this has to do, this is gonna sound silly, but I think it has to do with the shift knobs that they put on. I think they kind of weight these in such a way where all of your shift action just feels so buttery and perfect. In stock form, the Miata is pretty quiet, but the beauty of the Miata is that there's so much aftermarket support for this car that it doesn't have to stay stock. My favorite part about driving this car daily is just the placeability of it and the maneuverability aspect, because driving around in big old trucks is not always the most fun. I was driving a Ram 1500 last week and I was so ready to get out of that thing and into something smaller. I'm not really that big of a fan of big cars, so I always love when I've got something like this to take me for my commutes during the week. All right, we're gonna jump on the highway here. We'll show you what this thing is like at 70 miles an hour. We're gonna leave the roof down because it's actually not super blustery in the cabin. I'm trying to get myself recalibrated with the Miata. Oh, it's traffic. I suppose it's rush hour. Okay, well, we'll get to see what this thing is like in traffic. Maybe not at 70 miles an hour like I once thought. It looks like things might be moving a little bit better up here. What was I saying? Oh, this is the third manual car I've driven today, so I'm trying to become reacquainted. We're actually going to jump all the way over because we're exiting left up here. Doing legwork like this in traffic is never fun in a manual car, but this Miata is just about as easy as it gets. Clutch, pretty light. Shifter, super light action. Oh, and there has been, I think, a crash, but there's only one car. So I suspect whoever they crashed into has fled the scene. Plenty of torque to get you back up to speed once you pass the single car accident. You can see here at 60 miles an hour in 6th gear, we're revved at just about 2,500 RPM, and it's barely blustery in here. You guys should still be able to hear me just fine. We have cruise control in this car, super easy to use. Just some quick buttons here on the right-hand side of the steering wheel. Nothing fancy, no adaptive cruise or anything like that. All right, we're gonna jump onto our little test loop over here and hit some corners. One last thing new for the 24 model year on the Club is we have this little track mode. So you hold that, and instead of turning traction and stability all the way off and completely disabling them, it gives you kind of a middle ground to give you a little bit of slip, but not enough to completely loop the car. So similar to what you get on the BRZ and GR86. I love driving this car so much. It is just a treat. All right, we're improvising and doing our little highway section right here. So here we are, 70 miles an hour, just under 3,000 RPM. Yes. Love it. And this new steering rack, of course, it is still electronically assisted, and that's just the way things go in 2024 with just about everything. But I think that they've been able to tune this in such a way to make you feel just that more connected to the car. It's a lot more of a direct feel than we had in the ND2. Super high power cars are overrated. I like something that I can just absolutely drive at 10/10ths all the time and barely be going the speed limit. And this car may come slightly above that. I mean, it isn't terribly slow, but you know, I wouldn't call it fast if somebody asked me. Let's see how this new diff handles a quick corner. really have that sense of peril anymore, like the back end is going to loop around in front of you. Not that the old car was terrible, but it was a heck of a lot more tail happy than this new one. So definitely more of a safe driving feel with this new car. And you know, kind of feel like you could toss anybody the keys to this thing. They could stick it in this little track mode here and they could go have fun. Good way to sharpen up your skills on track too, if you're learning, if you're new at that sort of thing. But all right, so little spirited section done. Let's hop back on the road here and we'll talk a bit more what this thing has been like to daily drive. I wish this had one of those Fast and Furious 20-speed transmissions, because I just want to shift this thing all day. It is that good of a shifter. We'll try some tunnel work here and see if it makes any noise. A little bit there, all the way up to our 7,200 RPM red line. All right, let's put ourselves back into normal mode. I'm happy to report that after reading the blurb about the new little elbow rests, it is true. I mean, they are genuinely comfortable, and these Recaros do a pretty dang good job as well. The Alcantara does a good job holding you in when you're going around corners, and I would say we have just enough bolster on these. One of the big issues with cars this size, when you start getting into some super heavily bolstered seats, is ingress and egress, you know, getting in and out of them, you know, and it becomes kind of hard. But I think they've kind of struck a nice middle ground here with these Recaros. And ingress egress in this car, yes, it's low to the ground, it's a Miata, that's how they are, but it's fine. You know, I don't really have any sort of complaints with this outer bolster giving me any issues getting into this car. So that's all good. The actual seat itself, sitting in it for long periods of time, it's all right. My back's a little bit sticky currently because they're black seats. I've got the top down, so they're getting a little bit hot, but it is what it is. For the most part, I'm doing just fine. Ride comfort in this car, it's great. You know, at the end of the day, yes, you can take this to the track, but it's a grand touring car. It's meant to go up to your beach house and, you know, or up north, as we say in Michigan, and, you know, just blast around little towns like that. And this is really just the perfect car for that. And don't think that every new ND3 is a $40,000 car. This thing still starts under 30 grand for the base model. It's about $28,000. So you're still able to get into an ND3 for a reasonable price. Of course, if you drive an NA, you know how terrible the cowl shake is and all of the interior bits that rattle to pieces. But this car at this point now, 35 years later, feels like a proper luxury Grand Tourer. And this isn't even the Grand Touring trim. This is the Club. This is not even supposed to feel luxurious, but not only do all of the inputs in here just feel telepathic and perfect, but everything you touch, from this leather-wrapped steering wheel to the little leather-wrapped shift knob, the leather-wrapped parking brake handle, these really nice painted door panel top pieces. It's all just, it's a nice place to be in here. I've put just under 100 miles on this car this week, and I've been averaging 27.1 mpg, which is absolutely fantastic. Admittedly, I just checked this just now because I was curious. And, well, with the way I've been driving this car this week, I'm surprised that isn't below 20. But it just goes to show how efficient this little 2-liter is in this car, and how, if you're driving it carefully, you're easily averaging over 30 mpg on a day-to-day basis in this Miata. All right, well, as we keep on commuting here, why don't we do a sound system test? I want to show you guys what this sounds like with the roof down. I feel like this isn't really something that's talked about too often, and what Mazda does a really good job with is being able to give this Bose system enough power to make it pretty dang crispy with the roof down, but also, you know, it's not like it's blaring and blown out with that extra power to compensate for the lack of roof.
Told you to walk away. That was my first and last mistake.
Yeah, so pretty dang impressive. My biggest takeaway from these Mazda Bozes and the Miatas all the time is that you can be blasting a back road with the roof down, listen to your music loud, not only loud, but also very crisp and clear. So I think they've got this sound system so dialed in at this point, I wouldn't change anything about it. This is a manual transmission that I don't really mind to be operating right now during rush hour. So I think that says a lot for the streamlined nature of the driving experience of this entire car. And just as a daily driver as a whole, I think that you'd be really happy with this, because obviously if you're even considering a Miata, you aren't worried about having back seats or being able to carry more than one other person with you. So if you're just wondering, is it comfortable enough? Am I going to be able to daily drive it without going nuts? Well, the answer is yes. Honestly, the only thing that I would maybe ask for would be to give me some auto headlights here in this $39,000 Miata. That seems a little bit silly when, I mean, essentially everything nowadays has auto headlights. Not that it's hard to just do that. And honestly, it may give people some accountability and prevent them from driving down the highway at night with their headlights off. So I don't know, maybe it's a good thing. Last thing I want to talk about with this Miata before we wrap up is the driver's compartment, driver's footwell, and ergonomics of all of that. You know, I think there's this common misconception that any car in this class is going to be extremely small and cramped, and that just simply isn't the case. I mean, I'm 5'11", and I feel like you could be quite a bit tall. You could probably be up to like 6'5" or 6'6", and still be pretty comfortable in this car. The seat goes plenty far back, and our actual driver's compartment footwell down here, we've got some pretty decent padding here for your right leg. Unfortunately for the left leg, it's just hard door panel. But with this being a manual and with me being constantly engaged with the driving, I don't really find myself ever like resting my left leg. And this seat bolster on the seat bottom honestly holds your leg before it gets to touching the door panel. So they've got this thing set up pretty nicely. And even in its most hardcore form with the Recaros and everything, it is still a super cozy and nice place to be. Also, how nice is it in a car like this to have places to put things? I mean, my phone fits right here. This is the big phone too, and it fits right there with no problem. You've got 2 USB-C ports if you need to charge, or if you prefer wired CarPlay, you're able to do that. And even under this newly squished center console, you've got room for things like GoPro batteries or pepper spray or rolls of quarters. I don't know. Fit many things under there. Let's get one last little run in here. I love this thing. I also love how easy it is to just casually drive this car. You know, this is not something that is egging you on to go fast. I don't have a super snappy throttle response or a super obnoxious exhaust note in this car. This car is satisfying to drive fast, but it is just as satisfying to drive like a normal person on your commute. So whenever you're sat in this car, it is just a great time. And I mean, what a thing. Who knew when Mazda came out with this car in 89, 90 that it would grow to become such a legend? I suspect also that this ND3 is going to be probably the best Miata ever, because I don't know that the NE is going to be super enthusiast oriented. I mean, we can only hope. We can only hope that Mazda is going to continue this legacy that they've put so much work into over the last 35 years, but you never know. With new regulations, with new people in those corporate chairs, who knows? So go and have an ND3 while you can. Get them while they're hot, and I hope that this kind of stays around for the next few years, and maybe we'll have it until like the 27 or 28 model year or something like that. All right, guys, well, this should be some familiar territory for you. This is where the TheTopher does a lot of his videos. So, Cool, well that's gonna wrap it up. We're gonna end our commute here at a slightly different little industrial complex, but say we work over here, we're pulling up to the office after about 35-40 minutes, and I'm feeling rejuvenated. I just did a fun little drive in my 2-seater convertible sports car. I'm not fatigued from these Recaro seats, and I'm excited to finish up work and do it all again on the way home. So that's it. Have yourself an ND3. I would if I had the disposable income. It is that good. This is one of those few cars where I'd have it. I would have it. So let's get parked up. We'll back into the spot. I'll show you that reverse camera here. Sorry if you've waited the entire video to see the reverse camera, but well, might as well subscribe at this point if you've waited this long. Not super wide, it doesn't take up the full screen, but it is a pretty dang good resolution there. Cool, let's park. Let's put our roof up. I'll show you what this looks like parked. It's that easy. Stick it in gear. And that is it. That is the new ND3 Mazda Miata. Boy, am I in love. And I'm glad that I've been able to drive an ND1 and an ND2 because it makes me appreciate all of the changes that they've made here for the 24 model year. So that's going to wrap it up today. If I left anything out or if you guys have any questions, leave it down in the comments below and I will do my best to get back to you there. But yeah, that's going to be it. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and we'll see ya in the next one. Take care.